Greetings, everybody! T-Prower once again. Does anyone remember when you were a kid wanting to meet Santa Claus, or the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy, or leprechauns, or even the Great Pumpkin? Staying up at night trying to catch a glimpse of them, or even setting up traps to catch them so they don't get away? And yet, no matter what, they'd always find a way to outsmart you, either by being too clever, too magical, or simply by the fact that you can't stay awake long enough. And then there's cryptids, creatures of myth and legend whose existences are contested. Bigfoot, the Chupacabra, the Loch Ness Monster, the Abominable Snowman. So many elusive beings and creatures that it's difficult to conclusively say exist. In the end, it all comes down to a matter of believing they exist. Today, we're going to learn about an equestrian variety of these, and the pull its legacy has on both Apple Bloom and Applejack. Without further ado, let's jump right into Season 9, Episode 10, Going to Seed. Also known as, it's the Great Seedling, Applejack! Let's get to it! Good morning! Hello, Winona.
I know we've had this day marked on the calendar for quite a while.
Morning, Apples.
Finally here.
Sure is. What?
The confluence. A harvest 100 moons in the making. When every apple comes ripe at the same time.
The word confluence itself basically means a merger. In this case, it's about every apple tree in all of Sweet Apple Acres being ready for harvesting at the exact same time. Kind of like the bumper crop Jackie foolishly dealt with by herself in Season 1.
Big Mac's been up late working on this schedule so we can be sure not to miss a single tree. All it'll take now is a few days of hard work. Who's with me?
It might be a good idea not to have these kinds of important speeches so early in the morning. No one's really up for focusing at the crack of dawn. George Weasley put it best when he asked Oliver Wood, "Why couldn't you have told us all this yesterday when we were awake?"
That looks like a lot of work.
But it'll be worth it, Apple Bloom.
Chickabiddy. We got this confluence under control. I got us some help.
That's great, Granny. Twilight and the others are too busy at the school to lend a hoof. We could
That explains where they are.
Who'd you get? Brayburn? Honeycrisp?
Nope. Would have been nice to see Brayburn, though. Hello, Goldie.
Now that's how you wake a pony up.
More effective than coffee, at least.
Granny told me I could use a helping hoof with this here confluence, so I came a-running.
Well, with the harvest this big, we're grateful for all the help we can get. I guess.
Yup.
Now, I did wonder why Granny would invite Goldie, a non-apple more suited for harvest work. I think it may be because other apples have their own confluences to deal with, and Granny's confident in her grandkids being able to handle it, and she just wanted Goldie to make it fun for them. That's my view on it, anyway.
That's too bad y'all ain't ever caught the Great Seedling. He'd granted you a perpetual harvest, confluence or no.
And here we
The
go.
Great Seedling? Well, now, I haven't thought about that old mare's tail for years.
The Great Seedling ain't no mare's tail.
If you say so.
Earth spirit. All the colors of the harvest that travels from farm to farm, daring ponies to catch 'em. And those that have the ingenuity are rewarded with crops that are always in bloom. And he's as real as you and me!
Good grief. And I thought Linus was adamant about his belief in the Great Pumpkin. All we're missing is Goldie saying the Great Seedling rises out of the most sincere pumpkin patch to bring toys to all the good children of the world.
As I'm up to recall, Apple Bloom used to love setting traps for the Great Seedling when she was a youngin'.
Younger than she is now, that is.
Well, I'm pretty sure she's outgrown the whole thing by now. Right, Apple Bloom?
You had to say it, didn't
Maybe I'm
ya?
big enough now to finally catch him. Who's with me?
There's a face for ya.
Apple Bloom, you haven't hunted for the Great Seedling since you were little. Why would you want to start again now?
Because the confluence is a golden opportunity for
He's bound
it.
to show up, and if we catch him, he'll make all the apples ripe all the time. Right, Goldie?
That's right, young filly.
Oh, just imagine, Sweet Apple Acres would be the busiest orchard in Equestria. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got work to do.
The Great Seedling's not gonna trap itself after
We
all.
have actual work to do, too.
Nothing like a little filly enjoying the harvest.
I don't mind Apple Bloom having fun, but there's honest-to-goodness work to do that doesn't have a thing to do with an old legend.
Oh, lighten up, Jackie. Let her have this. I won't deny how big this harvest is, but with all the hard work you do around here, you could use a little unwinding yourself. That could also be why Goldie's here, to get you to loosen up a little and just enjoy yourself.
Oh, quit worrying, Sugar Booger. Apple Bloom can hunt for the seedling all she wants. If you're so fretified about work, why don't you and your brother get to bucking your own selves?
See there? Granny's not worried about it.
Come on, sleepyhead. Let's get to work.
Wakey, wakey, big fella. Not bad. Show off.
And if she had two of them, it would have been a pair of pairs.
Ouchie.
As much as I appreciate her volunteering, I'm not sure how much help Goldie's gonna be.
For bucking, anyway.
That reminds me of the time Dottie, that's my cheetah, you understand, she found out where I keep the catnip.
Yeesh. I'd hate to have seen
And
that.
Granny spinning yarns, but it looks like the harvesting's up to us. You're gonna have to redo that schedule.
Sorry,
As much
Big
as
Mac.
I'd rather Apple Bloom were helping, I guess there's no harm in her hunting the Great Seedling for a day, right?
Right.
Big Mac!
Whoops.
Aw, you ain't the Great Seedling.
What tipped you off? Good morning.
We fell behind a bit yesterday, so we need every pony at their best.
Yoink.
If that's your brother's best, we might be done for.
Hey, go easy on him, Goldie. Can't you see how ragged he
We're just
is?
up late working out a new schedule so we can stay on track.
I didn't sleep either. I was too excited. I can't wait to see if I caught the Great Seedling.
It's like waking up on Christmas Day.
I hope you're ready to cheer Apple Bloom up when her traps come up empty.
Every pony, come quick! You gotta see!
Hustle on over, Apples.
What in blazes is all the excitement about?
Look!
Apple crop
Great
circles.
Seedling did this, didn't he?
Well, braid my mane. This sure look like Great Seedling tracks to me.
Of course, we only have your word for it.
The Great Seedling was here! Isn't that amazing, Applejack?
Yeah, amazing.
Now, don't give her that look, Jackie. There's no proof she planted those. But, given the circumstances, I can definitely understand your suspicions. It does look like Goldie's perpetuating it herself. But again, no proof.
Isn't it beautiful? I just
It's
can't
something,
believe the
all
Great
right.
Seedling was really here.
Neither can I.
What do you think this means?
Oh, well, it looks to me like a challenge. The seedling wants you to know that he was here, and he's daring you to catch him. Mm-hmm.
You think
He's
I stood
saying
up
you're a
chance?
worthy opponent,
You're
Apple
an
Bloom.
apple, ain't you?
Why, if you set enough traps, you're bound to catch him.
You're
In
right.
theory,
And that's
anyway.
just what I'm gonna do. Look out, Great Seedling. Here I come.
Tally-ho!
Now, why would you go and do a thing like that?
Nothing like what?
You know what I mean. We got enough work to do without you distracting Apple Bloom by making some apple tracks and pretending the Great Seedling did it.
Now, Jackie. What did I just say? There's no proof Goldie did this beyond circumstantial evidence, so you can't go accusing her like this. Still, it's interesting how Goldie and Granny never address a concern about all the work that needs to be done. But again, maybe they know it's manageable, and you're just making mountains out of molehills.
I did no such thing.
What in the tater tarnation would make you say a thing like that?
Ooh, them strong words,
She
Granny.
Sure seems to be enjoying this quite a lot.
I'm enjoying it because Apple Bloom's enjoying it.
She's having adorable
And I
fun,
suppose you two
AJ.
didn't do it either.
Nope.
Of course not. But I suppose it could have been Goldie's cats. Why don't you ask them?
Go have Fluttershy ask them. She'd get an
Have you
answer.
considered that maybe it was the Great Seedling after all?
Ha ha, very funny.
See? That's why they're doing this. That attitude of yours.
I swear, sometimes I think she's part mule.
Twilight thought the same thing in Season 1.
Apple Bloom?
Careful there.
You know where there's more rope? I've got a lot of traps to make if I'm gonna catch the Great Seedling.
I thought we jumped that
That's what
shark
I always
ages
talked
ago.
about. I know you're excited, but we sure could use your help today. Are you sure you want to spend time trying to catch something that might not even be real?
Tread carefully,
The Great
Jackie.
Seedling is real. You saw the tracks. You think those appeared all by themselves?
I
Well,
don't
not
know
by
who made the
themselves,
tracks,
no.
But I don't think it was the Great Seedling.
Why not?
Because the Great Seedling is just something to make the harvest fun for youngins. And you're old enough now to know that there's a time for fun and there's a time for work.
Well, you're not wrong, AJ. But remember, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And Jackie a dull girl. And you don't want to be dull, do ya?
But catching the Great Seedling is helping. He can make the trees blossom all the time.
Which would be wonderful, I
All
agree.
right. How about this? If you help me with the harvest today, I'll help you set traps for the Great Seedling tonight. Deal?
Sounds fair to me.
Oh, yes! It's a deal.
Aw, sister hugs. What a big help you are, kitty. Now we're back on track.
Kinda looks like those seedling tracks, huh?
Sort of.
Sure. If there were hundreds of apples in a bunch of different lines.
Well, if enough apples fell or got knocked down, by the wind maybe. Or animals.
You're fighting a losing battle,
Just
Jackie.
saying, there's a lot of possible explanations.
And one of them is the Great Seedling.
And the rest of them ain't.
Easy there.
What you thought when you was a foal. What does that mean? Your sister was plumb loco about catching the Great Seedling when she was your age. Same as you are now. Worse even.
She just doesn't want to
Is
admit
that
it.
so? Do tell, Granny.
Story time!
It must have been the last confluency, I reckon. I was supposed to keep an eye on your sister, but she was slipperier than an apple seed.
And that's pretty slippery.
Applejack, get your flag back here! You're supposed to be sorting in the barn! Sorry, Granny. I gotta check my traps or the Great Seedling might get away!
Just like Apple Bloom.
Now, where'd I put that trap?
Right there.
My buds, where's that young'un get to?
Missed her by that much, Granny.
She spent the better that trap.
And missed out on helping with the harvest because I was chasing something for little foals. I felt guilty every pony else had to work harder because of me. So I decided right then and there I was too old to waste any more time on the Great Seedling.
Aw, Jackie. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I know it must have been tough on you, and it's easy to see why you'd be bitter about the Great Seedling after that. But you don't have to be so hard on yourself for it.
Oh, we finished the harvest just fine, but we laughed about that story for years.
Should you laugh about it, though?
I'm still laughing.
I'm sorry that happened, Applejack, but it won't if you and me set traps together like you promised. Plus, we'll get them done twice as fast and won't miss out on any of the harvest.
At least your sister's not laughing at you. Montage! Whoa. Oopsie. Yeah, keep well away from it this time. Whoop. She's okay. Multitasking's the name of the game. As if we let them get caught in a trap. Now poor Big Mac, on the other hand. Nice work,
It was
girls.
fun setting up all those traps together.
I forgot what a good time it could be. If any two ponies can catch the Great Seedling, it's us.
No doubt about it.
I can't wait to check in the morning.
Now, there's still plenty of harvesting to do. So promise me you'll help, even if all our traps are empty.
I promise. So long as you're ready for the bountiful harvest, the Great Seedling's gonna give us one of our traps, nab 'em.
Deal. No need for crowing today, Chanticleer.
Come on, Applejack! If we hurry, we can check every trap and still stay on schedule!
Atta girl.
Now, that's what I like to hear.
Well, look at that.
I don't believe it!
Neither does she.
This must have taken all night.
Don't sleep and drive, Big Mac.
Nothing!
Huh?
I checked all the traps near the tracks. Everyone was sprung, but they're all empty.
Sounds like the work of magic, if you ask
No
me.
way critters did this. Or the wind. I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe the Great Seedling really was here.
Jackie, I think you've just rediscovered your old childhood sense of wonder. Well done.
So, you're finally ready to admit the Great Seedling might be real?
I think she is,
There
Goldie.
was that could have laid out these tracks and sprung all our traps.
And if he left this many tracks behind, he's practically begging us to catch them.
Seems hard to refute,
Never
doesn't
seen
it?
anything like this before.
Well, tell us what you have seen. Goldie, you too. We need to know it all if we're really gonna catch them.
Sure, Goldie and I'll tell you all about the Great Seedling all day while we work.
Can't forget that.
Apple Bloom and I don't have time to work today. We've got to set up traps in every row, even the carrots, just to be sure.
Don't get carried away,
You said
Jackie.
the Great Seedling was just something to make the harvest fun for youngins.
That was before I thought we could actually catch them. Besides, Big Mac can make time on the schedule for us to set traps, right?
Yep.
Great. Get to it. Apple Bloom and I are gonna go capture us the Great Seedling.
Now, I'll freely admit that I'm not too thrilled about Applejack and Apple Bloom making Big Mac do all the harvest work now, considering how exhausted he is, which is something they ought to have picked up on. The poor fellow's made some pretty strong stuff to keep going even when he's this tired. Though, oddly enough, he shouldn't be this tired if all he did was rearrange the schedule once. Makes you wonder what's making him this sleepy. I feel for you, big guy. You're getting there. Slowly but surely. Well, that's odd.
All right, just one more hill to go.
At least you two are enjoying yourselves.
Is this right?
Yup.
He wouldn't make a
That doesn't
mistake
make
that
any sense.
big.
How can all these trees be bare if we haven't bucked them yet?
Seems like more work of the Great Seedling to me.
Sure, blame him for everything.
Well, the closer you get to catching the critter, the more mischievous it gets.
You're saying
Like a
that
leprechaun.
Great Seedling is taking our apples?
Yes. Sounds like he's fixing to throw you off the stand.
Have you ever
Dang
heard of
cats.
anybody actually catching them?
Oh, there are stories, but it's hard to say for sure. He's quite the trickster. Guess that's why the reward is so great if you can trap him.
He is so sick of the
Well,
Great
his
Seedling
tricks
by
have given me
now.
an idea. Setting traps is one thing, but I reckon if we keep watch over the trees that haven't been bucked, the seedling won't know what hit him.
That's a great
Makes sense to
idea.
me.
Any pony else want to stay up with us?
An old pony like me needs a beauty rest, but you young'uns have a good time.
My kitties can't sleep unless they're curled up on my haunches. But I can't wait to see the Great Seedling with my own eyes once you catch him.
That
Guess
gives
it's
them an
just you and me.
alibi. Poor Big Mac.
Too bad no pony else wants to come out, but I'm glad we're doing this together.
Some nice
Me too.
sisterly bonding.
It's been a long time since I was on a real seedling hunt, and this is the first time doing it with my little sister.
Aww.
When did you start trying to catch the Great Seedling?
I couldn't have been much more than a foal. I remember our parents tucking Big Mac and me in and telling us all about the Great Seedling. I got so excited I could barely sleep, so I...
She doesn't have that same problem, it
Don't
seems.
you worry, Sugar Cube. I won't let him get away.
Leave it to Jackie. What could be making a rustle in the trees?
Applejack, wake up!
Huh? What is it?
I think a trap went off!
The seedling's a hoof!
Well, let's go check it out. See anything?
Mm-mm.
Don't scare him off.
Magical tricksters
We
are
gotta
very
lure him into one of the
skittish.
traps.
I'm not worried about scaring him.
Xerneas, is that you? This is the kind of obscure evidence cryptids live for. Guess who?
The Great Seedling's hunting us!
Apple Bloom, wait!
You work your way up trying to see the creature, only to realize it may be something to actually be afraid of. Not an unreasonable reaction. Caught in her own trap.
Applejack!
Better hurry, here he comes. Maybe pull the latch up. There's your Great Seedling.
Big Mac? He's been harvesting in his sleep this whole time.
And that's why he's been so exhausted. Working even while he's sleeping. Poor fella.
Big Mac is the Great Seedling?
Not so loud, Apple Bloom! Oops.
You okay, Big Mac?
Nope.
At least he's not too bitter about it.
And thanks to all of Big Mac's late night work, we brought in the whole harvest with time to spare.
No
Good
wonder
job.
You were so tired all the time.
Yep.
I'm glad we solved the mystery, but I really wanted to catch the Great Seedling before I get too old to try.
You know what, Sugar Cube? You're never too old to be a filly. There will always be work to do, but having fun together is something you never grow out of.
Very well said, Jackie. Peekaboo!
Well, looks like you don't need me no more. Time to get home before Dottie gets in the catnip again. I have stories about that, I'll tell you what.
I'm sure you
We're
do,
glad you
Goldie.
came, Goldie.
It was great seeing you again.
Come back next year.
Come on, kitty cats. Time to go.
Oh, looks like you forgot to clean up the carrots.
Huh. Big Mac wasn't harvesting the carrots, just the apples.
Oh ho!
You know what this means?
Time for another hunt.
Here we
Look
go
out, Great
again.
Seedling. Here we come!
Now this was an adorable episode. A sweet, simple bit of slice of life with a good lesson behind it. Major kudos to Dave Rapp, as well as Ashley Ball, Michelle Krieber, Peter New, and Tabitha St. Germain. The confluence has come to Sweet Apple Acres, and that means apples. Apples everywhere, and every single one of them ripe for harvesting. Something that doesn't happen too often. Naturally, Applejack, being the industrious workaholic that she is, has a whole schedule set up to determine which trees to take care of first. It's a big job, so Granny Smith calls in some help. Goldie Delicious, and her plethora of house cats. And while Goldie isn't quite up for bucking trees, she does have a wealth of entertaining stories to pass the time. In particular, she brings up the legend of the Great Seedling, whom she insists is real. According to her, the Great Seedling is a majestic and wily earth spirit decked out in autumn colors, who visits farms during harvest time. If any pony is lucky enough to catch him, they'll be blessed with eternally ripe crops, always in bloom forever. In essence, it's like catching a leprechaun to get his pot of gold. Apple Bloom, who had been obsessed with the legend when she was younger, is reinvigorated with the thought of the Great Seedling blessing Sweet Apple Acres during the confluence, and goes out to set up traps. Applejack's none too pleased about this, since she feels it cuts into the time they need to bring in the harvest. And she's rather disdainful, too, of Apple Bloom getting caught in what she feels is a fool's fantasy that she ought to be too old for. She doesn't get much help from Granny or Goldie, who say let Apple Bloom just have her fun, and that she and Big Mac, who's struggling with exhaustion by the way, will be able to handle things just fine. Applejack wants to be fair, but she's having a hard time balancing work with play. The next day, while Apple Bloom's traps turn up empty, she does find mysterious patterns traced in apples on the ground, which Goldie assures her is a sign the Great Seedling did indeed grace the farm, and is now encouraging her to try harder in her endeavors. Applejack feels sure the signs are the work of Goldie and Granny, since they're having the most fun with all this, or by some more natural phenomenon, rather than the work of a mythical spirit. She tries to convince Apple Bloom the Great Seedling may not be real, but to no avail. Apple Bloom's belief is impregnable. AJ does manage to get Apple Bloom to help with the harvest, with the promise of helping her with her traps later, which puts them back on schedule a bit, though the debate about the Great Seedling is far from finished. It's then that we learn just why Applejack is so stubborn about the Great Seedling being a myth. When she was very young, she herself was a fanatic for the legend, and had set up traps during the last confluence, back when Bright Mac and Buttercup were still around. She had neglected her duties to check her traps, just like Apple Bloom had done, and fallen into a pitfall, causing her to miss out on a day's harvesting. She felt so guilty about not being able to help her family that it disillusioned her to the legend, and she resolved to never let frivolity get in the way of work again. This likely explains why, in such a magical world as Equestria, someone like Applejack could disbelieve in the existence of a creature like the Great Seedling, who very well could exist. It's similar to Hermione Granger disbelieving in the Deathly Hallows, despite living in a world of magic. Though her skepticism was also coupled with fear of how dangerous they were. And while it does make Applejack a bit of a hypocrite for admonishing Apple Bloom for acting the same way she did when she was young, it also shows how much she values her family and the work she does. Missing out on a day's work with them made her feel so guilty that she gave up on a full-hood legend and became so focused on work over play. Maybe she also didn't want Apple Bloom to feel the same disappointment that she did at the time. And even if it was just an accident, I don't think it should be something to be laughed about if it has such a big impact on her. Luckily, Apple Bloom sympathizes with her, and also encourages her that such a thing won't happen again if she helps her with her traps once the day's work is done, for a better chance to actually catch the Great Seedling. In spite of herself, Applejack has fun helping Apple Bloom set up traps, having forgotten what it felt like after so long. It's always sweet seeing them share some sisterly bonding time together, since they've shown such adorable synergy and closeness in the past. And it's nice to see Applejack unwind from her uptight workaholic self to just enjoy herself. I could be a little uptight myself when I just want to get things done, so I kinda know the feeling. The next day, the traps are once again empty, and even bigger traces have been left behind. Applejack can no longer deny that these are the work of the Great Seedling, and becomes just as excited as Apple Bloom, as though she were a filly again. It reaches such a pitch that they have poor Big Mac cover their slack so they can set up more traps. The big fella's been getting the short end of the stick all episode. Sleepy, overworked, getting caught in the traps, and being bothered by Goldie's cats. Though he's much wearier than he should be. He still manages to stay on task, though, until he comes to an odd phenomenon. Trees marked for bucking that have already been emptied. Naturally, Goldie puts it all on the Great Seedling's tricks again, and you can tell Big Mac's pretty much sick of hearing that name by now. The two sisters resolve to stay up late and keep an eye out for their elusive quarry, to catch him once and for all. And catch him they do, but rather unexpectedly. While hunting the Great Seedling, it seems to be hunting them, and puts them in quite a fright. But they soon discover the truth. Their local Great Seedling was really Big Mac, sleepwalking, or rather, sleep harvesting, which explains his unaccountable level of tiredness all throughout the episode. Luckily, by the next day, he's well rested again, and thanks to his somnambulic endeavors, the Confluence harvest is all gathered up with plenty of time left over. Apple Bloom's a little sad she never got to see the Great Seedling before she outgrew it, but Applejack delivers a very heartwarming moral, one she likely rediscovered from helping her little sister out. You're never too old to be young. Even if there will always be work to do and responsibilities to take care of, you can never outgrow having fun, especially with your family. That's something to really take to heart, and is the cherry on top of this adorable episode. I'm reminded of that scene in song from Rankin Bass's The Year Without a Santa Claus, when a disguised Santa visits Iggy Thistlewhite and his family in Southtown. Iggy's thinking he's outgrown believing in Santa, but Santa, and even Mr. Thistlewhite, convince Iggy that you're never too old to believe, and that it's belief in the wonderful and fantastic that makes dreams what they are. The same holds true for the Great Seedling, and everything we all still enjoy years later, even from back when we were kids. How else could you explain the Brony fandom? Goldie takes her leave, But as she does, she leads Applejack and Apple Bloom to a new discovery. Carrot signs, just like the ones made with the apples. Big Mac never touched the carrot harvest, and that leads the two excited sisters to one conclusion. The Great Seedling is challenging them anew, and they're ready to take him up on it. Is he real? It certainly seems so. At the very least, the spirit of his legend is alive and well in the Apple family. A sweet, adorable episode, all in all. Until next time, see ya!